What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Muscle Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Henry Jackson.
What's up?
Today, we have a very special guest. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, but I'm sure Henry would agree with me that this is one of our favorite bodybuilders for sure in the last 10 years. Great guy, great coach, great bodybuilder, and much more. My coach, actually, as well. Justin Compton. What's up, Justin?
How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How you been, bro? Let me start with that. How you been during the whole...
I've had my ups and downs, over the last couple of months. But, I feel good. I feel great. I can't complain. Just like everybody else with the world going around, that sucks. But, we all do. We're all dealing with that.
Exactly. How has COVID affected you, if it has at all, like on a personal level and business level?
From a business level, at the beginning of the year, back in March and April, it did affect me pretty heavily. Because nobody has a gym, nobody's doing shows. Obviously, I think every coach is going to suffer to an extent from that.
Yeah.
The gym's closed down here, but I'm not too concerned about that. I've got backups on that. But on a personal level, it really hasn't affected me. I still do my thing. Technically, my septum on this side of my nose has been broken for a long time, for about 5 years. So
Wow.
I legally have a medical exemption out, and I don't wear a mask anywhere. So I carry on doing my thing.
See, I kind of wish I could do that, but in LA, they're super. They can't physically force me to do it, but they're everybody's super scared of that kind of stuff. But obviously, being a big bodybuilder, it's hard to breathe already, as it is, let alone with the mask on. But yeah. So
I just don't see how people are wearing them in the gym. That's my main thing. I could wear it in the grocery store for 5-10 minutes, but people working out in them, man, pretty tough. So I know you have to wear them.
I'm just waiting. I don't want it to happen, but I'm waiting for somebody to end up collapsing from that.
Yeah. It's gonna happen if it hasn't happened
Sooner
already.
or later, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
I want to ask, as a whole, right? How do you feel like this whole situation was handled? If it was handled properly, I know in the beginning, I was kind of okay, I get it. It's new. You got to be careful. 2 weeks doesn't sound bad, but it's literally been 6 months right now, and things are just looking crazy. So, do you think it's been over exaggerated, or do you think it's warranted, or how do you feel like the situation has been handled?
I feel like it's highly over exaggerated. So in the beginning, I'm with you. It's a couple of weeks, I don't have a problem with that, but that's when I started waking up to what was going on. Do I think there's a virus? Yes, but I think it's being used to push a much greater political agenda. I don't know what that agenda is yet. We can all speculate. We can all come up with our own ideas. But the moment that you let prisoners out of jail and then you want to throw business owners in jail for, opening their business, that tells me it's this is all fucking bullshit. Because if the masks work, why wouldn't you just give it to the prisoners?
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
So that's kind of where my take on it. I think that, people die, but the thing is, people do die from, the flu kills a lot of people. So I personally don't think it's any more deadlier than the flu, and we don't shut anything down from that. And then every time somebody always tries to correct me on it, I bring up the 2018 tuberculosis issue where 1.5 million people died. Most people don't even know about that. I honestly didn't hear about it. I didn't know until all this was going on. That's how little news that made.
Yeah.
So I think, just closing up the economy, closing everything down, it's going to take a long time for people to recover. I want to say, I don't know if it's a real statistic. Who knows? Everything is fact-checked, and even the shit that's fact-checked is not real either. So a lot of small businesses, just around here, they've already went out. They've had to close their doors. So I'm sure it's even worse out where you guys are out in L.A.
Yeah. Well, Henry actually moved to South Carolina. I'm not sure about how it is over there, but in LA, it's really bad.
I got out of there right when it hit in March. So I moved out to South Carolina beginning of April. So as I got out here, though, they closed all the gyms down. So, like, for another 2 months, I didn't have anywhere to train. But it still wasn't as bad as LA. So when I got out here, you know, grocery stores still had, you know, chicken and meat and stuff. When I was in LA, like, no grocery store had meat. So I was happy to be out here for simply, like, being able to get food. Like, you know.
LA is like super dramatic, but if like, here's the thing, like anybody with like a sound brain can see like there's something up, right? It's either one or the other. You can't say masks work, everybody wear masks, it's gonna work, but then you say, well, you still have to close. But well, if the masks work, then why can't you just keep the gym open for the masks, right? And if the masks work, well, why is everybody scared of the next person wearing a mask? If you're telling me this mask is gonna protect me, then I shouldn't have to worry about you, right? And then you have 6 feet apart, but well, if the masks work, then why do you need to be 6 feet apart? The masks work. So it's like, so the masks don't work, right? So what's the point? Let's just scratch it all together. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like everything kind of conflicts each other. It doesn't really, I don't know. It doesn't really add up to me personally. But anyway, enough about COVID. I actually wanted to brush on this one. I hear a lot of people talking about the New York Pro obviously happened, but that's 2 days ago now. And it's been a lot of controversy, like as far as the call outs, kind of weird, like the prejudge and night show. A lot of people didn't agree on the winner, and you know, pretty much every single place, and I've heard somebody say something about, and I personally have my own thoughts, but I don't want to skew anybody's thoughts, so I kind of want to hear what you think about the New York Pro.
Well, I wasn't there, so I mean, I'll say that. But at the same time, I did see videos. I've seen pictures. Videos are very limited, just because I think you had a live stream that you had to pay for. So I remember at the Tampa Pro, or I guess the first Tampa Pro, however you want to call that, last month, they made it very specific that you can't be taking videos or doing any type of live stream in there, because they were doing a pay-per-view event on it. But based on the pictures that I saw, yeah, I didn't agree with it at all. I mean, I didn't really pay much attention to the second and third call out, but just based on the first call out alone, I will say that I'm a big fan of Ian's. Like, I'm not by any means throwing him under the bus. And the same with John De La Rosa. I've respected John from like 2009, I think, is whenever I've known who John is. You know, me and him became friends over the years. But if I'm being honest here, I would have probably called it either Justin or Hassan at winning that show. Justin was probably the best I've seen him thus far, Rodriguez. And then Hassan is just, you know, he's big and he's complete. He's only missing maybe like 5% conditioning from the rear. And if he gets that, I mean, he's a very difficult guy to beat. But like I said, I didn't have him in fourth, and I didn't have Justin in second. I probably would have called it Justin first, Hassan second, and then after that, I may have went Ian in third, possibly. I know that that's probably not what he wants to hear, and I heard somebody say, I didn't see the interview, but he said he was happy with the look. And it's like, was you happy with the look, or are you happy that you won? I mean, yeah, everybody's happy to win a show, especially the New York Pro, right? But this was not close to being his best look. And I personally think, and it's no disrespect towards Patrick Tour, but I think if Ian and Patrick want to stay together as a team, they're going to have to do multiple trial runs this offseason to figure that out, whatever it is they're going wrong, because this is 2 shows in a row that they've went bad on. So, and, you know, Ian can't really afford – Ian's not a top guy already. Like, he's not a top Olympian as it is. Like, he can't afford to show up off. He's, you know, it's not going to work. I think they should either do some trial runs or potentially maybe look into another coach. I mean, I would give him the benefit of the doubt and do the trial runs, because right now he's in shape. What would be the harm of doing a trial run next weekend just to make sure they get it right for the Olympia? That would be my thoughts on it. But like I said, Ian is not, you know, he may have been happy with the win, but I don't think in his heart he could argue and say that was his best look, because it was not his best look.
Yeah. I feel like for somebody who looks that good off season and going into a show, there's no reason why he shouldn't look phenomenal on stage. And something about it's funny because in some of the side shots, it looked like he had striations in his glutes. So he was lean enough to have glutes, but he didn't hit his glutes. I thought that was weird. Like, he would hit the back post and he would relax his glutes. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, you don't see any kind of definition.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb, and again, I'm just assuming here. He did his back poses, kind of like how women's physique they arch their back and stick their butt out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't really flexing on his glutes. He didn't have them clenched. I mean, that's just kind of been a bodybuilder thing for 30 years now. That's how we pose. So I'm going to go on a limb and say either they agreed that they thought that looked better, which I personally don't, or maybe the lines really wasn't there, and by flexing it would expose that. So that's what I was thinking. And that's why I said I know for a fact we've seen Ian multiple times really hard at shows and really just 100%. So, I mean, that's why I think they're going to have to do some trial runs, or they're going to have to come up with something different.
Exactly.
I mean, this is 2 in a row. I mean, it's even though he won, that doesn't make it better. Not in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree with you. And like I said, I got respect for all those guys. I haven't done anything as a pro yet, so respect to what all those guys are doing, and like especially doing it during like COVID and everything. But yeah, I totally agree with the placing. I totally thought it was kind of mixed up, from what I saw. And like you said, I try not to, be too judgmental since I am looking at it online. I wasn't there, but yeah, it does confirm, like hearing it from you. Like, yeah, I thought, Justin looked a lot tighter, and I definitely had him and some other guys placing, in the top 2. But it is what it is.
What's weird?
I probably moved up Dorian Hamilton, Team HD, his guy Quentin. I probably would have moved him up into the top 5 as well.
I agree. And I know I'm kind of biased towards Quentin. He's one of my favorites. So, but yeah, I definitely thought he would have done a lot better. I thought he would have at least gotten the first call out. But yeah, they had him like 9th, I think. I can't remember. Yeah,
I don't see him going as far as 9th. I mean, I still don't think he's hit his stride 100%, but I think he was better than what they gave him here.
Yeah, I totally agree. So,
what do you? Okay, so speaking of Quentin, right? He looks like from his pro debut in this year, he looks like he's in shape. He has lines, he has glutes, but he doesn't look super hard. Like a lot of people talk about that. Like, is that like a genetic thing? I heard Fuad said he thinks it's just time in the gym. I heard somebody say it's genetic. I heard Ian say it's just you just have to work harder. But I don't know if I believe that. Like, I feel like everybody works hard though. You know what I'm saying? Everybody at that level.
He's only 24, so
that's the thing. That's what I'm thinking. And like he put on all that muscle fast. But what do you think about that, Justin? Do you think it's a time thing? Do you think it's genetic? Or do you think it's all of the above?
I think it could be a combination of things here. So when it comes to time, I can argue that because I've had guys, I'm going to use him as an example. He's the first guy who I ever turned pro was Brian Bolzano. Mm-hmm. Are you guys familiar with him?
No.
He won the middleweight at USA's in 2014, I think. It was the year that Nick Fragilli won the overall. And I remember a lot of people were arguing. They said Brian should have won the overall, and that's as a middleweight at USA's. Wow. I don't think he should have won the overall. I mean, it's just hard to justify 75-pound of muscle difference. But my point is, Brian was very much a rookie at that point in his career. I mean, he'd lifted weights, obviously, but he hadn't really been like a true blue bodybuilder. And then we just randomly hopped into a show, like when we started working together. He won his first contest. He won the novice and the open overall. And then he went on to USA's, and he won the second contest, getting his pro card. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is Brian is, when he's in shape, he is extremely hard. Like, you go look him up, and you'll see the level of conditioning and the fullness that he has. Also, he has that grainy factor everywhere on his body, from his quads, hamstrings, glutes, back, all of it. It's extremely thin skin. Now, the thing with Quentin about that question is I'm not around him every day. So I wish I could be because, I mean, I'm part of Team HD. I'd like to be up in Canada, like every couple of months. Toronto's actually one of my favorite cities that I've been to. And that's where Dorian's at. I think it's called Burlington. Oh. Yeah, Pure Muscle up in Burlington.
Yeah.
If I could see him every day and I could see what he looks like on a high day versus a low day, I might be able to argue that he's just really flat on stage. I just have to see him like in his normal setting to figure out whether or not he's missing his peak. As far as training goes, I can't imagine someone can add that type of quality of muscle over a short period of time and then be training like a pussy. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more of a timing issue for him. It's, food, timing. Again, I'd love to see what he looks like, say, right after the show, send him out to eat, rehydrate him, get him full, and then get a pump on like Sunday morning after the show and see what he looks like then. I'm sure it would be a night and day difference.
Yeah, that's crazy. And
but he's one of the guys, I think, that he holds a little bit of water as well. So if he's not dry, it's like, I believe he's probably been pulled down pretty hard in order to be dry. And unfortunately, he's probably sacrificed some of the fullness to do so.
Yeah.
So it could be, that could arguably be genetic, whether or not, because some guys just can't have that fullness and the conditioning at the same time, it seems, or they never seem to quite put the formula together. And I mean, people will argue this about me, but the thing is, they don't see what I see every day when I was competing. Everybody would say that I was probably full on stage, but the reality is I felt like I was super flat every time I walked on stage, because in order for me to get the deep lines that I had to ultimately sacrifice the fullness. And no matter how hard I carved up, didn't matter. Like, I never got that back until like a week after the contest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was obviously still plenty enough for me to do well, but I know I could have been better, and I don't feel like my body was ever going to allow me to do it, because when I got full, my legs, like my hamstrings and my quads, wouldn't quite have the same detail in it. So to me, it was a trade-off. I'd come in, 50% flat in order to get that detail, and it obviously worked in my favor.
Yeah.
Some guys come in, they think, fullness is the key, and here they are pushing, insulin and a ton of carbs last couple of days. And, if you gain 15 pounds from the time you weigh in to the time of your show, you fucked up.
Yeah. I feel like me and Henry have a similar thing where for us to bring in glutes and hamstrings, we literally have to lose like another 10 pounds from when we're already in shape. So now we kind of sacrifice some fullness from the front just to get the definition in the back. But I guess it's part of the game at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not polished all the way around, I mean, I don't think the fullness is going to carry you all the way through.
Exactly.
And I will say that I've definitely been in places where like my front end gets conditioned, about 8 weeks out, but like that last couple months is really just deplete. And I'm definitely not as full on stage as like I know I could be, because I'm trying to get like my hamstrings and glutes in and everything. So yeah.
Speaking of Justin Rodriguez, right? I think he has potential to be like eventually. I'm not sure how old he is, but can't imagine him being too old. I think he has potential to be like top Olympian. Like, he has crazy genetics. The funny part is, I've known him since I was a kid. He used to train in the Bronx, where I'm from, in New York, and he almost looked like a powerlifter. He was like a huge guy. He was maybe like almost 300 pounds at the time, but he had a lot of body fat, and he was just stocky. And I would talk to him. His English isn't very good, but I would talk to him, and he was like, "No, like I do it for fun. This is a passion of mine." And then like years passed by, and I literally just see him turn pro. I'm like, "Oh, that's the guy from the gym." And then he looked phenomenal. I didn't even think he could get into that kind of shape, but he comes off like he's a naturally big guy. So I think coming into shape is hard for him, because I'll see him a couple weeks out and he doesn't look ready at all. And then 2 weeks pass by and then he's ready. So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a water thing. I don't know what it is, but I think he has crazy genetics, man. Crazy genetics.
Yeah, his shape is ridiculous. I think in the past it's always been a conditioning / water as well, and he's gotten better. I still don't think he's 100%. I still think he's still got room to improve here. I also agree. I've seen pictures of him leading into contests. It's almost like from 10 weeks out to like 3 weeks out, he stays. Ever since he's been with AJ, I think he's been staying a lot leaner, which is great for him. But it's like from 10 weeks out down to like 3 weeks out, there's not a significant difference. So in my head, I'm writing him off. I'm like, yeah, wasted talent. It's not going to happen. And then something he does in the last couple of weeks, I mean, I don't know. I've never worked with him before. Like, I've had a few brief conversations with him, nothing drastic. But, I mean, he pulls a lot those last couple of weeks, and he pulls it together.
He does. So, Justin, I want to kind of go back to your past. I haven't heard you talk about, like, how you got into bodybuilding or when you started. I know you started early, that much I'm aware of, but, like, what was your first introduction to bodybuilding? Like, what made you want to be a bodybuilder?
Um, let's see. So freshman year of high school, spring break, I had no plans. I didn't have, nothing going on. And my parents had bought a total gym. You guys know what those are? Chuck Norris used to endorse that.
Yeah.
It's like a thing, you can lift it up, and it's like basically cables is all. It's like a bench that works on cables.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having that, like 15-pound dumbbells. And I was just bored. I wasn't doing it because, I wasn't thinking I was going to gain any muscle. I was bored. And I remember getting my first pump, and I was like, I didn't know what it was. It was like all of a sudden I became vascular. I mean, I was always skinny, so I was always lean. I became a lot more vascular just really fast, and I couldn't figure out, like, what the fuck is this? Mm-hmm. And then the next day, like, I got sore. Like, my whole upper body was sore. Most people get scared. Like, oh, I don't want to be sore. Most people don't want to be uncomfortable. But for me, it's like I enjoyed being sore. I know that's probably odd for the average person to hear that, but I greatly enjoyed it. By the way, can you guys hear background noise?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. So, like, I enjoyed being sore. So then it became like I would use that machine for like 2, 3, 4 hours a day, like beating it up. I mean, you can't really add resistance to it. So I'm probably pumping out 100 reps on everything I was doing. And then, my parents saw that I was, taking a great interest into this, and they bought me like a little cheap, those home units where you can have like a flat incline, decline, fly, leg extension, leg curl. We got one of those, and I started, I think I was growing at a very, very fast pace with that. And I remember I got on bodybuilding.com, and back then all I had was a 56K dial-up modem. I didn't have like DSL or cable internet where I could just like watch and stream YouTube videos of how guys work out. All I could see was pictures of shit on bodybuilding.com. And I wanted to figure out how am I going to squat? I don't have a squat rack. So, everyone will tell you squats is the king of all exercise. So I'm like, how am I going to do this shit? So I ended up taking 2 big 50-gallon drums and turning them upside down and putting like one over here and one over here. And then I had to get a little lower than I wanted to get underneath the bar, but I would put the bar on top of the drums, and I kind of made my own squat rack with that just to get it done. And then I started going to the gym probably when I was about 15 and a half. My parents had dropped me off, and saw a guy down there, and me and him are actually best friends still to this day. We talk almost every day. And at the time, I think he was like 2000 or 2001, like Mr. Kentucky or something like that. So, that was my first glimpse of like what a real bodybuilder looked like in person. Now, I wasn't that annoying kid that would walk up to him and just aggravate the shit out of him between every set. I used to be a very shy person. Like, I was like 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to have this conversation. I wouldn't even be able to come online and like talk to people. Like, I was was an introvert. Is that right? When people were shy?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I guess I was very introvert. And I didn't say anything to him. I just like watched him from a distance, and I'm like taking notes. Like, all these other guys are slinging weights fast as they can, and they look like shit. And here he is like controlling things, and he looks the way he does. So I'm like, obviously there's some merit to that. So thankfully, I guess I kind of got some like in-person, real deal, like from somebody who's been there, done that. I got a chance to see how to train the right way and get it done right. And then I remember going to a few shows here and there back in Kentucky. And then finally I just competed in 2007, and I ended up winning my first show. So that's what got it started. I think if I would have went there and I would have got my ass handed to me, I think I would have, instead of like having the motivation to go forward, I felt like I probably would have just like put myself back in line and realized this is probably not for you. Most people, like, they want to get better and better. I think I would have been too embarrassed of myself.
Yeah.
But I do remember that prep. I did everything myself. I had no guidance really at all. I went through, I just read articles on bodybuilding.com for like all my spare time I had when I was at school. And I ended up winning that show. There was 13 or 14 of us in the teenage division. You don't ever see that anymore, like 14 guys at a local show in a teen division. Mm-hmm. Like classic physique and men's physique has taken over on that. But I ended up winning it, and that gave me motivation to continue getting better and better. I think I did my second show, and I got second in a junior division. And then the third show, I ended up winning that. I won every teen division that I entered. And I think I took a couple years off and kind of just grew from there. Focused on school, too, because I think at the time I was 19. So I wanted to get through my engineering degree.
Okay. Wait, so you said you coached yourself for that first show. When did you feel like did you feel like you needed a coach, or when did you hire your first coach? And Who was
back
it?
then, this was 2007. You know, there really wasn't like a thing of like online coaching. I'm sure it was there. Like guys like Justin Harris and Shelby Starnes, they were with what was it called, Tropina Nutrition.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time. I think they've been online coaching, but I didn't know about that kind of stuff. I didn't know that like actually existed, that there was someone who could help you via pictures. Mm-hmm. I didn't really, you know, I was looking into more exercise execution, reading my own articles. I didn't focus on what anybody else was doing. I had no clue if anybody was going to be doing my show, nothing at all. So I probably would have been interested in having somebody help me at the time if I knew it was available, and also if the funding was right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have any money then, so like it ain't like I could shell out a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably would have taken advantage of it if I had known at the time, but I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know it existed. Back then, like even the tanning, there was no such thing like as tanning sponsors at the shows. Like you tanned yourself or you just didn't get tanned. Like everyone back then, that was, I think around 2007 or 8 is when it started becoming a little bit more commercialized. Like Marilyn with Liquid Sun Rays, I think she started doing it in 2008 for the, what was it, the Monster Mash or the Mr. Cincinnati show. And she's from that area. She's in Cincinnati, and obviously her business just blew up from there. You know, she's international now. But like Protan and like Jantana, they weren't around. I mean, they were around. They sold their products, but they didn't go around the shows spraying people. That didn't really become a business until, you know, around that time. Mm-hmm. So like I went into the whole thing completely blind, having no clue what to expect. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like everybody else is in the same boat as I was. So we were all in the same playing field.
Who kind of who was the first person that would you say coached you, like that you kind of get?
Actually, it was for a very, very short period of time, but it was Jason Theobald. You guys are familiar with him, right? Scooby Snacks.
I know the name. I know that. I'm not familiar with his work per se, but I definitely know the name.
Yeah, it was Jason Theobald, and it was the last show that I competed in as a teenager, and Jason basically did my peak week for me, and he did a great job at it too. I mean, it was like, honestly, he was kind of like, and I'm thankful for this in hindsight, but at the time I was like, man, this guy's like fucking emailing and calling or texting like a lot. I'm like, what the fuck does he want? But I realized that's what you're supposed to do. Like I wasn't as communicative with him as I should have been. But I mean, I was happy with the outcome of that show. I mean, I didn't win my last one as a teenager, but I mean, I was in a junior division, junior and open. I got third behind RD Caldwell. I don't know if you guys remember him or not. RD had won that show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first coach I actually had. And then after that, Jason, me and him had been speaking on bodybuilding.com forums. And we just kind of went back and forth. And I was probably one of the first people that he ever helped too, because he didn't have a coaching business at the time. He was still a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
No, I was saying that's pretty dope story. I mean, just to get off on a tangent, I mean, I hopped in NPC when I was in 2015, and I was just, you know, with Compton. Yeah, you've definitely been one of the younger guys. Definitely my favorite bodybuilder. Just watching your transformation like that, 4 years where you just exploded. Definitely going into the NPC definitely was a huge motivation. Like, you know, just watching you like from this small kid to just, you know, next thing you know, you're killing pro shows. You're at the Arnold. So it was a huge motivation for me at the time, man. So it's cool. It's cool to hear all this stuff. Seeing how you started.
It's funny because when you see him early on, like he's not somebody like Quentin, right? That you can look at him like, oh, he has the genetics to be a top guy right away. It was kind of like the more he grew, you kind of seen a little bit more like, wow, as he's going, you're like, okay, his shape is pretty good. Okay, I see his quad sweep, and it's like the more muscle he put on, he just looked better. Whereas some people put on muscle and look worse, right? He put on muscle, kept looking better, and it's like it's crazy. Sometimes I'm sure you guys have the same thing. Like kids will DM you and be like, "What do you think of my genetics?" And it's like they don't have much muscle to even judge, and it doesn't matter what we think because if you keep working toward it, you might be surprised, you know, how you end up looking. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you don't know your genetics, so you actually push. You know.
Correct. And, you know, I'm pretty sure there was not one judge at that show. There was not one fan at that show. Like the first contest I did, I'm pretty sure there was nobody there would have ever looked at me and said, man, that kid's going to go somewhere someday.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would have thought that. Yeah, I look good for the show that I was doing, but nobody would ever thought I was going to have, like, you know, Olympia level genetics to be able to take it that far. Even I think after I was winning open shows, or like winning overalls, like at regional shows,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, even at that point, I don't think anybody would have ever thought that. And I didn't think it either. Like, I didn't believe in myself. I just knew I was going to push myself to, you know, as far as I could go. And, you know, I made it to the top. So, yeah, when you look at people, you see somebody that looks good, a lot of times they don't make it that far. You know, that's where they're stuck at. And then you've got the little skinny kid over in the corner that has the ability to, you know, take it all the way.
Yeah.
So you don't really know where someone's genetics is until they actually max it out as far as they can go with it.
Exactly. So I actually always wanted to ask this question. You don't have to say the name of the bad one, but what was your best experience with a coach and worst experience with a coach? For the best experience, I want to know who it is, but for the worst experience, you don't have to put them on blast.
Let's see. I can't really say that I've had any, like, I mean, I've been off. There's no doubt about that. Like, I've not, like, there was a couple of shows that I was off at. Like, 2011 Nationals, I was pretty far off on that one. I said I ended up falling 13th at that show. Hang on, can you guys still hear me?
We can hear. Okay.
My low battery thing kicked on, so depending on how long we run, I may have to, like, duck out of the room and get the charger in a few minutes.
Okay.
But the worst show I ever got, like, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say like I had a emotional problem with the coach itself. Like, that was not the case. The protocol didn't work for me. It's that simple. And that's nothing you can't get mad. You shouldn't really get mad at the coach for that, because some people, they just don't know, or it just didn't work on your body or whatever. But that's, you know, where you either you guys work together with a new game plan, or you move on to someone else who knows what they're doing, or can better handle you. And that's kind of what I was getting at with Ian earlier, is like, they either need to do a trial run to nail it, or he needs to move on. I mean, because his career, you know, the clock's ticking on him. I mean, he's in his 30s. He needs to make sure every show he does, he's 100%. Now, as far as probably the best experience, and I might be a little bit emotional in saying that, but Nationals in 2012, the year that I turned pro, I felt like that was just a very smooth sailing prep all the way around. Hang on just a second, guys. I actually got the charger here right now. Let me get that plugged in so we don't lose out on anything. All right, we're good. Looks like I turned my camera a little bit. But yeah, that was probably my best experience, just because I had some injuries, but it wasn't anything that was major. And the prep just went easy for me. It's like, and I'm going to say it was a good prep because I was confident. That's one of the only shows that I went to, like, the year that I turned pro. Like, I went there and I was like, I gave myself the ultimatum. Either I'm going to win this show or I'm going to quit. That was it. Because at that time, I had just finished college, and I was like, you know, this is the part where you're either going to make a career out of this, or you're going to realize it's just a hobby and you're going to have to keep it in the background. Yeah. And that was the ultimatum that I gave myself. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself that off season. And I was probably 12, maybe more than that, maybe 15 pounds more muscle that following year when I won. Mm-hmm. So I went to that show knowing that I was going to win it. I was not taking no for an answer. And I said, having that confidence going into it too, you know, Factory was coaching me then.
Okay.
And he boosted my confidence level the whole time. He was telling me, like, 8 weeks out, he's like, you know, no one's going to beat you here. Like, this is your show to win. And he was right. It was my show to win.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So for me, right, my first coach was John Regan, the infamous John Regan.
Okay.
With him. So with him, I think he pushed the food kind of too hard. And I would ask him, I'm like, we're like 4 weeks out. Should I still be having 800 grams of carbs? And he's like, don't worry about it. You got it. I'm like, okay, well, let's see. And then obviously, you know, with a show day, I just wasn't in shape. He tried to pull last second with like a bunch of diuretics. And at the time, I didn't really know how diuretics work. So I did it. Now looking back, I'm like, that was crazy. Like I ran diuretics for like 2 weeks. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Whoa. Yeah, like 2 weeks straight. So now looking back, I'm like, that's not a good approach, man. That's not a good approach. So have you had any experiences like that where a coach is like way too extreme in ways that it doesn't even help you look, you know, it doesn't even help.
Well, when you use the word extreme, you know, there's obviously a lot of different topics that we could go over on that, because everything can be, you know, extreme in one direction or the other. When it comes to the food, I've never had anybody go to the extreme on carbs with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm very carb tolerant. So really, the more you feed me, it's in prep, obviously there's limitations to that. Yeah. But in the off season, it's like, I don't really get like fat. So I feel, let's see, with food, Factory was at one point, he didn't want me on 12 ounces of cooked whey protein per meal. And that's just, you know, in my opinion, man, that's overkill. That's too much. Maybe if you're doing fish with every single meal, because it's going to be a little bit less protein per ounce. But even still, it's like, I just don't feel that much is truly necessary. I never really had anybody push me to an extreme on training, or, you know, anything that I would say was bad on that. As far as gear goes, no. I mean, I've talked to people who want to talk about bigger numbers, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm still progressing, and I'm doing well on this. I don't feel the need to increase that. Now, as far as the diuretics go, like what you were saying, everyone that I've ever worked with, except on 2 occasions, it was very simple with Diazide at the end. Like, you know, the last 1 to 2 days, depending on how I was looking. But I did have 2 instances where they wanted to use aldactone and Diazide together. And I can tell you, if you're one of those guys who hold a lot of water, sure, maybe that'll work. But if you're someone who stays dry all the time, when you try to put both of those diuretics in, you're going to flatten out. You're going to look like shit. There's just no way around it. And the first time was 2011 for that year's nationals. And my body just, it wasn't coming back. I don't care what I did to it, it was not going to come back. And I followed instructions. I followed orders as I was supposed to, and it didn't work out for me. And then 2015 for the Arnold, that was the same approach. No, sorry, 2016 Arnold, Columbus. That was the approach. And Matt wanted to do that with the aldactones as well. And I was a little hesitant on it, but I mean, I did it. And I think we both realized that, like, I probably could have gotten away with the aldactones, but when we added in the second diuretic at the end, it blew me to pieces. Like, if I would have just stayed with the aldactone, we probably would have been much higher placing at that show. I mean, I ended up 4th, which, you know, a lot of people are going to say that, oh, that's nothing to be ashamed of. But for me, I wasn't happy with that, because I know the previous year I had beaten Josh and Cedric. So I feel like I had the capacity. I could have been second. You know, 4th to 2nd place at the Arnold. It's a big difference on your paycheck. So, I mean, with Kai, I hate to say it, but that's one of the only people I've went against who, aside from going to the Olympia, he's one of the only guys I went against. And I said, you know what? If I get second here, that's a win to me. Yeah. I knew I wasn't beating him. I knew there was nothing I was going to do was going to beat him. Mm-hmm. Unless he, like, completely fucked up really, really bad, that was the only way I was going to beat the guy.
Yeah, that's wild.
And honestly, I was kind of hoping for that in a way, because I was shocked. That year he was posting on social media. He was doing, like, his Snapchats and all that stuff. And he was traveling all across the world. That was the year he started Dynamic Muscle. And he's promoting it everywhere, like over in Asia. He was, like, in Russia and Mexico, like multiple different countries at, like, 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out. So I know for a fact my body won't handle that. I don't know if it's up down here. I think it's up here that I mentally cannot handle that kind of stress. I guess I've always had very easy preps, man, very laid back my last few weeks. And I think me trying to travel internationally, like the last couple of weeks of a show, and try to do cardio, train, get my food in, I feel like it would ultimately just blow up in my face and be a disaster. So I was actually thinking Kai was going to show up and he's going to be off the mark, and I'm going to slide in and get an easy win here. But it didn't turn out that way.
You know what's funny? So you may or may not remember this, right? But maybe, like, I want to say, I'm going to turn 28 this year. Maybe 5 years ago, something like that. Maybe 5 years ago, I messaged you on Facebook, right? I'm like, hey, you know, could you coach me and get me ready for a show? And you were super honest. You was like, right now, I'm super busy. You know, I got sponsor obligations and stuff. I don't know if I could fully commit to give you my all as a coach. So I don't know if that'll be possible. But if it so happens down the line I can do that, I'll be more than happy to do that. And most guys wouldn't say that. Most guys would say, yeah, give me $200. I'll send you a little program. So I feel like I actually that made my respect for you grow a lot more. And then down the line, when you were able to coach, and you did coach me, so that I think that was dope. I feel like most guys wouldn't do that though. I feel like most guys would kind of be like, yeah, send me some money, man. I got you, and then send you like a little diet, like, yeah, just go follow this. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, most bodybuilders there are two things. I mean, I hate to say this, but bodybuilders don't have a reputation of being a meathead for no reason. I mean, the vast majority of them are not too intellectually intelligent, so to say. So a lot of them don't have a clue how to manage money. They don't know how to do anything. So yeah, they probably would just take your money real quick just to, make $200. But for me, I was making good money, and all I really wanted to do, I wanted to put all my focus, all my energy into myself. And I think at that time when you had messaged me, I think I had 3 clients, and those were just 3 that like I've had for a long, long time. And it made my life easy too. But like, I know if I open my doors trying to compete, right now I'm still down. I mean, I've probably got 60 to 70 clients at the moment. I'd like to get back up to about 100. Mm-hmm. I just know that trying to take on that kind of load and prep myself, and keep in mind, I'm doing my own diet too. So I didn't want to like try to get in my own head. I was like, I'm doing really well with what I'm doing. I don't need to change my lifestyle. I need to keep it right where it's at.
Yeah, yeah. So right now I'll probably have like half of that. I'll probably have like 25, 30 clients, and I'm not prepping myself. You're prepping me, and it's way harder than you would think to prep yourself and have a decent amount of clients. I feel like back in the day, I would look and be like, well, this must be easy. You just text, you just email people, but it's way harder than you think. You kind of get overwhelmed, and
it's a lot more time consuming than what people think it is.
I agree.
So, as I say, so like, when did you start like diving fully into coaching? After you stopped competing, or
shortly after? Yeah, like I was doing a lot of stuff with stocks. I mean, I actually I'm not going to toot my own horn here. When I say good, obviously it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for my satisfaction. But, I was pretty decent, and I probably would have done better. I think around the middle of 2018, the market kind of changed with stocks and stuff. And at that point, I feel like I was making a decent living just with penny stocks. I mean, I'm talking like I never held anything hardly overnight. Like I would literally buy at like 9:30 in the morning when the market opened. I'm sold by like 9:40. I make like a good 10-15% real quick in and out. Like that was kind of what I was doing. And then I got into coaching people further and further, and this is where I'm at now. I mean, I'd much rather do this. Mm-hmm. Like, when you're doing stocks, man, people don't understand. Even though I said I don't really hold stuff for very long, you still got to sit there and you got to study. You got to wait for press releases to come out. You have to do your background. You have to do your research on companies. It's not something that you can just go in, look at a graph, and be like, oh, let's buy the dip. Because that's what everybody tells you is buy the dip. You go and do that. I mean, hey, it may work, 20-30% of the time. But what about that other 60 to 70% when 80% when you're losing? Right. So if you don't do your real homework on that, I mean, you're going to come out losing money rather than making money. So when the market has when weird things happen, right now the market's everywhere. I mean, I think that's pretty explainable with everything going on. But anytime there's like any type of crisis at all in the world, it will affect the stock market to some extent. So it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be in the United States. Russia could be going through something right now, and it would ultimately affect our stock market to some extent. So if that's not your life and that's not what you want to do, it probably isn't, something I would even consider going back into.
Yeah, you pretty much got to be tuned into like world events every day.
Yeah, it's just like, with bodybuilding, if you want to be the best bodybuilder you're going to have to emphasize that's going to have to be your priority in your life. So if you want to be, a good stock trader, that's going to ultimately have to be your priority. I mean, you could be one of those guys if you got a lot of liquid asset, if you have plenty of money where people, and say you lose, it doesn't really affect you any. You could hire someone to manage your portfolio for you, and you could make money that way. But I mean, that's like I said, that's the people who has a lot of money and they don't really give a shit. They're just letting somebody else handle it for them. I never had that ability. I don't have just say, hey man, here's $400,000. Just do what the fuck you want with it. Try to make me more money. Like I'm not gonna put someone else in control of the little money I got.
Right. What you mean? So Speaking of coaching, right? So okay, so Henry basically said you started coaching after you stopped competing. When was your last show? What show? What show and what year was your last show?
I did the Ferrigno out in your area in Palm Springs. It was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like October or November 2016.
Okay. Uh-huh. That was the last show.
Yeah, that was the last one I did.
Okay. And when did you actually make the decision to stop competing? I know there's like 100 different rumors of what the case is. I did see you make a post. Don't quote me, but I think you said something about your colon. Don't quote me, but
I had a minor issue with that. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if there's like a topic that's too personal or not, but was there a specific reason that had to do with that, or was it completely unrelated and you had your own reasons?
I could make a list that would probably fill up an entire piece of paper that would just ultimately come from me coming to the conclusions that I'm at. Mm-hmm. I remember throughout my 20s, as you know, with making money through bodybuilding, it's changed. It's not the same as it once was.
Yeah, completely.
I mean, obviously, I'm still going to lift weights. Like, I'm probably going to be doing that till the day that I die. I'm still going to be doing what I want to do. But, again, it was a business for me as well, and that was changing. So, like, I can just sit here and think in reality in my head, I don't know what I'd be doing right now if I were still competing, because y'all follow me. You know I don't post anything like right. I'll be honest. I don't post anything crazy on my Instagram. Like, if you follow me because you like me. It's not because I'm educating you every day. Like, I'm not making you laugh, and I'm not like filling you full of knowledge. Like, I post my client shit up. Mm-hmm. So with the way things have changed, I can imagine, like, I was having 6-figure contracts back then. I would say nowadays, if you're not in the top 5 in the world, you're not making that kind of cash anymore. No. Not just off an endorsement. And if you are doing it, there's going to be a lot more workload that goes behind making that kind of money. Yeah. Second off, I think there was I want to say 4 or 5 different things happened in early 17, because I was getting ready for dogs in the kitchen right now. I was getting ready for the Arnold Brazil is what I was going to do that year. So the colon thing was very minor. That's an awkward fucking story for another day. Because trust me, I read some of the rumors that people said online. No, there's no gay shit going on there. So anybody that wants to talk shit, fuck you. So the shoulder, I actually didn't train for 6 months. This AC joint separated, and I had 2 infections over that period of time too. So it's like, it's just one fucking thing right after another. It's like, literally, I would get myself on a good track going for a couple of weeks. And by the way, leading up to that point in my life, I never had one setback. I'd never dealt with a setback. I'd never dealt with an injury. I'd never dealt with a health issue, nothing, until I was 28. So it was like getting hit with 4 or 5 different things at one time. I don't think I mentally knew how to handle that either, because bodybuilding was the only thing I knew. You take that away from me, I felt like I was just an empty soul. I didn't have anything else to offer. So it's like it really put me kind of depressed. If I'm telling the truth, I was very depressed. That being said, it cost me a lot more than that. It cost me a relationship, because I wasn't in my own, my own clear way of thinking, my own clear mind. I felt like I was probably an asshole to people that probably didn't deserve me to be an asshole too. And I also remember prior to all that happening, this is a little bit more on a personal level with people, is I had considered the whole getting married, having kids thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to probably quit competing. I gave myself till I was 32, which is right now. I figured by the time I was 32, that would put me at 15 years on stage. So I was like, okay, this is probably when we need to hang up the posing trunks. Now, I mean, everybody goes for different. I mean, you got Dexter, who's still cranking. He's been doing about 30 years of competing. Some guys go 5 to 8, 10, it just all varies. And I figured 15 was going to be enough for me. And I was planning on walking away 32, no matter where I was at. And I remember my girlfriend at that time, she's like, if you're Mr. Olympia, you're not going to just walk away from the throne. And I said, watch me. We'll see. Watch me. And I was really going to do it, and I know I would have probably pissed off every judge, every promoter, everybody, if I was right there and I just fucking quit. But that was my thing, is I did want to go till I was 32, 33, and then I wanted to retire and start enjoying different aspects of my life. The things that I'm enjoying now, I'm traveling around, I'm doing things. And I'm going to go on and I'm going to state, there's no reason why you can't do all that shit and be a top bodybuilder. Me, I'm not wired to be able to do it. Unfortunately, it's like when I was competing, that was the only thing it consumed me, and it shouldn't consume you to the level that I allowed it to. It's like I didn't want to travel unless it involved me making money to guest pose. I didn't want to travel for like pleasure. So needless to say, any relationship I had, we didn't really get to do anything. When it comes to eating out, I wouldn't eat out with you. It's like literally it could be your birthday and I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I could be off season and it could be your birthday and I'd be like, no, I'm good. I don't really want to eat out. We're not going anywhere. Movies, I'd be like, sure, we'll go to the movies, but you're going to have to pack my meal in your purse. It was like, I wouldn't, and that's how serious I was. I mean, it was at a point where, if it's like, say, I'm supposed to eat at 8 o'clock. And say it's 7:45 and my girlfriend wants to have sex, I'm going to go, nah, you got to eat this meal. You can wait. Like, that's to the point where I was taking it. And I realized, like, that's obviously not healthy. But that's how I was wired and that's how I functioned to do things. And I didn't want to live like, I didn't want to get up to be like, say, 45 and then realize, shit, man, this is the better half of your life. You put it all to bodybuilding. I mean, as much as I love bodybuilding, I didn't want to push it to that extent. And honestly, another reason I wanted to quit young, I didn't quit when I wanted to quit. I said I wanted to go a couple more years. It just didn't turn out that way for me. But I wanted to quit when I was on top, because how many of these guys you see nowadays, they hit their prime and then they're still competing 5, 8, 10 years later and they're not looking like – there's no way I could do that. Like, if I walk on stage and realize I'm not at my best, if I'm not at my best because of outside variables, fine, we can fix that. But if I'm not at my best just because my body's getting old, I don't want to do it no more.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Dexter is at his best right now, but he's still beating everybody. So, like, if you're still beating everybody and you're on top, fine. But it's like, I guess I don't want to call myself a sore loser, but I didn't want to go out on the bottom. Like, I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to, like, win a big show and then lose it the next year because, shit, man, you had an injury, age, whatever the case might be.
And the thing is, like, today, especially, like you said, it's changed so much. It's kind of sad, but it's not even mostly about winning anymore. If your social media is good, like, people are root even if you're losing. So
yeah,
even if you're
when it comes to making money, you don't need to compete to make money. Like, if your social media is on point, you can make more than enough money out of a living. I know some people who get $300 to $500 a month on deals, like, and that's like, with their discount codes and stuff. And obviously they have jobs outside of that to support their lifestyle. But I know one person, I'm not going to name drop this person because I'm not supposed to actually know this piece of information, but I know one person that works solely on a discount code, no salary. And you're not going to believe this number, but it's over $50K a month on fucking sales. And this person's never been on stage in their life.
Wow.
Never. It's a female, and she's never competed. And she don't even – I think I got more followers than she does, but she just knows how to market. I'm not that guy. Like, you read my plan. So, like, I don't put 80 different supplements that you don't need in that plan. Yeah. I put shit very strictly, what you need, what you don't need. I get to the point. I'm not a guy who's going to shove supplements down your throat. If it's not needed, then don't fucking waste your money on it. Simple as that. And so that's why, again, I'm not a salesman. Like, if I ever had to sell cars, man, I'm going to go broke pretty fast.
Yeah,
there's no way I could ever work on commissions. Anytime I'm on commissions, it's any post that you see of, like, me promoting something, you can almost tell it's forced. Like, the stuff that, like, if it's food, I'll promote food all day because that's very genuine to me. If it's supplements that I personally use, it's very genuine. But if it's something I don't use, like, and I never really used a lot of supplements. My basics were I'd have an EAA in, carbs, or like a carb powder, depending on, whether it's off season, whether it's prep. I didn't use any carb powders during prep hardly. And I would use whey protein and then a multivitamin. And for the most part, that's about it. Between Ursud oil, which is Kutka, and then astragalus. I mean, those are not really, I would just use like bulksupplements.com for those. Not on Ursud oil. That one actually came from Canada. But those are not like supplements. Those are more, Ursud oil is actually a prescription. So there's that. But that's pretty much all that I would use. So it's like all these other products. I mean, even when I was with Evogen, like, and you'll never see me promoting the product. And I told Hani up front, he was cool with it. So was like, the fat burner. And honestly, I don't know if I even remember what the fat burner was. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember what it was. And I told him, I was like, I don't use it. So therefore, I can't promote it if I don't use it. I just can't do it.
Right.
I mean, because I think I tried it one time at a show, and I'm so sensitive to stimulants. I struggle with sleep, and I've struggled with sleep since I was about 18 or 19 years old, maybe 20. And I don't like to drink coffee. I don't really like anything that's going to wire me up. So like I would always use, like for example, on his pre-workouts, he would have EVP. There was a stem version and a non-stem version. The only one I would ever use and the only one I'd ever promote is the non-stem, because I simply can't handle any type of caffeine hardly. Like if I'm drinking coffee, I'd rather have that cheap ass Folger stuff that's got like 80 milligrams in it, because if you give me like a Dunkin' Donuts that's got 300, I might as well forget sleep for a couple of days.
Same here, yeah. I don't do any stem pre-workouts, so I use the pre-HD Elite.
Okay, yeah.
The funny part,
right over here.
I didn't even know like they had a non-stem, so I actually.
I've got the Ultra.
Okay, yeah. So I don't use the Ultra has caffeine, I believe, but the Elite, I think the Elite.
I haven't opened this one yet, so I guess I should probably read that one. Dorian just sent it to me recently.
I didn't.
Yeah, it does. It's 137 milligrams on this one. So if I do use that one, I'm gonna have to tell him I'm gonna have to go for the one that you're after, because I didn't realize that did have caffeine.
Same here. So the funny part, I actually got that one first. And then I was like, I actually hit up the manager, the athlete manager. I was like, hey, do you guys have a pre-workout without caffeine? She was like, yeah, we do actually. I was like, oh, perfect. I didn't know that. Like, I'm not really like, I don't really know much about pre-workout, but I just never used it because I'm like, I don't want the caffeine. So I wasn't aware they had like pump pre-workouts and like, and like the caffeine ones. But yeah, to go back to that, I don't think anybody actually knew why you retired, and instead of just asking you, everybody was making up their own rumors. So I think all they really had to do was.
I never really made a real statement as to why. And the thing about bodybuilding is this: no matter what you actually say, if it don't fit someone else's narrative, they don't really care. Like they're not going to believe you anyways on it. I mean, it's just like everybody believes what they want to believe. It's like, for example, Sean Roden.
Mm-hmm.
Right. People believe he's fucking guilty of that. Mm-hmm. I don't. Mm-hmm. But, people are going, even if the court comes out to prove that the guy's innocent, people are still going to be like, oh, he paid her off, or he did this, or he did that. I believe he's innocent on it. So it's like when people have an idea in their head, you're not going to change it. No matter what you tell them, you're not going to change it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's like, we can talk about politics. I don't really want to go that on this, but it's like with politics, you can like pound something into someone's head, but if they've already got a decision made,
they don't want to hear it.
Doesn't matter. Facts doesn't matter. Facts don't exist to people.
I agree. If somebody can say, well, this guy did this, and nobody wants to hear. Like, if they have their mind made up, you're not going to change their mind. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
When it comes to religion and politics as well.
Yep, that's another one, man. With religion, I mean, you are what you are. Nobody's going to change that.
Exactly. So, another topic I want to cover is that what you were known for, I would say the most, is the amount of progress you was able to make in, I guess, maybe like a 4 year span. I feel like me and Henry probably followed you closer than most, so we realized that a lot of people think it was like overnight, like you just came on the scene and just put on 50 pounds of muscle in 1 year, and we know that's not the case. We know there was a progression. It was still like a shit ton of muscle tissue, but it was over a span of years. It wasn't like one night,
Yeah.
Like everybody knew you after you won the Dallas? What show was that you?
No, I won the Orlando. That was the one that really kind of put my name out there.
Mm-hmm. And then I feel like everybody thought you just went from like 190 pounds to like 250, but that wasn't really the case. But still, like nevertheless, you put on a crazy amount of tissue. So I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think was the biggest factor toward doing that? Like, I don't know if there's one most important thing, but like just like a general consensus, like what do you feel led to that amount of muscle tissue that you put on?
Well, as a general consensus, I'm just going to say I was living the bodybuilding lifestyle. And then obviously that's a very vague statement. Yeah. So to try to narrow it down to one thing would be very much impossible for me to do. So a lot of times when people see those comparison pictures, it originally started from 2008. You know, I was a teenager, and I think I was 165 pounds there. Yeah, I had to be because I was a welterweight at my last show. I was 165 pounds. And then they saw pictures of me, and it was cropped in beside the 2012 Nationals. So 4 years later, I think I weighed in at 224. So, I mean, ballpark, you know, that's 40 pounds of, or sorry, 60 pounds of muscle, right? Mm-hmm. That's an average of about 15 pounds per year. So, I mean, that's more than most people is going to be able to put on. But then I went from that to like 240, 244 at the 2014 Orlando Europa. So people think, because now I see pictures posted from 2008 to 2014, and they're like, oh, this happened in 2 or 3 years. I'm like, no, you got your timeline wrong. So I've averaged probably, I don't think there was a year that I went less than 10 pounds. Like even all the way to the very end, I think I was still averaging about 8 to 10 pounds. I mean, obviously some years was better than others. Now, as far as like what would have attributed to that, as a teenager, you know, I took it as serious as I knew how to take it. It was a thing. The knowledge and the education level was not there for me. I took the education that I had and I gave it 100%. But again, I didn't really know how to train the way I do now. I didn't know how to eat the way I do now. I mean, I'll give you a good example. When I was a teenager, first show I did, and I always tell this story, and everybody fucking laughs at it. What the fuck my dogs are doing right now? But so I think I got one around here somewhere. Like I like Smucker's peanut butter. That's been my favorite. But I used to eat Jif. I still eat Jif from time to time. Yeah. So the big bottle of Jif is I think it's 28 servings in the container, and there's 2 tablespoons per serving. So you got to think, if my diet calls for 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, that jar should last me a month, right? Yeah. 28 days. I was going through a jar in a week, and I was getting pissed. I'm like, man, fucking Jif is screwing people. Like, how is this legal that these labels are wrong? But because I was so, I guess the word's dumb. There's no other way to say it. Dumb. I didn't realize that there's a difference between a regular tablespoon and an actual measuring spoon. This was like 18, 19 years old. So here I am with a regular tablespoon. I'm just like getting a big, huge scoop out, and I'm doing 2 of those. So, I mean, hell, I was eating probably 1,000 calories of peanut butter before I went to bed, and I still won the fucking show. But again, it's not because I was cheating. I genuinely thought that I was doing it right. I thought that's what I had on my plan. That's what I called for. So my nutrition knowledge went up. I mean, I was getting these old, like, processed, like Tyson chicken breast, like just like I said, I remember doing burgers, and I'd have like low fat cheese and have buns and stuff on it. That was one of my meals. Crap, I didn't understand all that. And then training wise, from a volume standpoint, I was always a lower volume guy when I was younger. It was always maybe 8 to 10 sets per body part or something. You know, 8 to 10 on a big body part, 6 to 7 on smaller body parts. And as I got older and I started experimenting around, I realized like I got to a plateau. It's like I'm not getting any further. I'm going to try new methods. I'm going to try new shit. Because that method worked for me all the way till I was about 20 years old. I mean, it got me to winning shows, but it wasn't getting me to the level I wanted to be at. So I started incorporating a lot more advanced techniques, doing rest pause, having my partners help me with force reps. I started doing more volume. I remember, like, you know, people ask me about how I got my arms so big so fast. I mean, I would do 20-plus sets for biceps, follow with 20-plus sets for triceps. And during those sets, I mean, I'd still have, like, drop sets and supersets and rest pause. Like, I'm doing advanced techniques on all those 20 sets. Like, it wasn't just straight sets. And that's the thing, is everybody thinks that, oh, you can't do 20 sets to failure. Okay, I did it, you know, and it worked. You know, people think when they go to pure failure, you just need 1 set. Some people may get by with that, but that's not how I like to train. I've never trained that way. Even squats is probably the only exercise I can say that I wouldn't take every set to failure, because once you get to failure at the bottom, you can't fucking get back up. So who wants to unrack it and have to pick it back up? Yeah. So I would normally take like a set of squats to maybe the last set being to complete failure, assuming I had safety set up. There's been many times like I would just sit the bar on the rack and crawl my ass out of it. And that was the end of my set. That was the end of squats. Now, as far as like everything, obviously the other topic we haven't actually discussed here is with gear. and I don't know how you guys are with discussing it. I'm not going to like toss everything out there, but I will tell you this: from 2011, yeah, that's when I worked with Factory for the first time. So from 2011 all the way to 2016. Now I know everybody's watching this; they're going to be like, "Oh, bullshit." Fine, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That cycle didn't change. The prep cycle did not change. The off-season cycle did not change. The dosages did not change. The compounds didn't change either. The only thing I will say that did change, and I'm not going to attribute this to my progress, I will attribute some of it to my progress. The GH went from to some, like, obviously sometimes when you get like Serostens is like 18 a bottle, and you got Humatrope at 72 a bottle, you know, so the number would be, it wouldn't be always be an even number, but theoretically it would be 4, 6, and 8. That was the numbers how I've like incremented up over. Now, a lot of people are going to say you probably took more than that, but really, if you take somebody that's never done it before, if you take 4 IU of real stuff, your hands are going to be hurting so fucking bad, you're going to want to go back to 2.
I agree.
Right.
So that was the only thing that really changed from 2011 all the way to 2016, because I don't think GH was a factor until 2013 for me. And then when that went in, it went from, again, 4, 6, and 8 on up. Now, I think with the combination of that, along with the nutrition, along with the training, and the fact that my drive was higher, it's like now I'm getting paid. So I have my passion, my hobby. It's also my income. So it's like that drives me to train even harder than I've ever trained before. That keeps me motivated to stay on a diet and not, it's like if it wasn't a scheduled cheat meal, I was not going to fucking eat it. It was not going to my mouth. There was no snacking. And I didn't care how bad I felt that day either. I was going to train. Like, I don't care if I had the flu. I was going to train. Now, in hindsight, I realize that's stupid because you are infecting everybody else in the gym too. But back then, I wouldn't have gave a fuck. I would say, I don't care. Let them die. Whatever. I'm training. I'm getting my shit on. But, you know, like nothing was going to get in my way. That was my point. And I think just the combination, and then you repeat all that day after day, year after year, and that's why I was still able to continue getting better and better. I also do think that when people take long hiatus away from the stage, I think that actually can be detrimental to like long-term continual progress. Like I found that I gained probably the most amount of muscle during my rebound phase than any other part. Like those first 3 months after a contest, I cannot stress this enough to people watching. Stay on your diet. Like don't fall off to be an asshole. Like be true to yourself, and you'll gain more muscle in those 3 months than you will in the remaining 9 months of the year. Like, yeah, I would always end up blowing up like 30, 35 pounds after a show, but I still have strided glutes at 35, 40 pounds sometimes over contest weight. So, yeah, a lot of it's water, a lot of it's intracellular fluid. But the reality is I'm still putting on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle a year. So anybody that's arguing that and they're gaining 3 to 5 pounds a year, you know, where's your argument really at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
also think too, like Justin, because your rep execution when you trained, a lot of guys just go in, they just rep it out, you know, just up, down. But yeah, watching you train like really influenced how I trained because I saw like the amount of control you had like in your negatives and the positives. It was just one solid fluid movement. So I know when I started, that's something that I started to imitate, and it worked very well for me. I actually did put on a lot of muscle. And another thing you said about, you know, the high volume on certain body parts, you know, hitting supersets and stuff. I took Beatty through an arm workout. A lot of people ask me how I grow my arms as well. And, like, literally the whole workout is giant sets and supersets. It's literally like, you know, we're doing four working sets per exercise. And we're doing, like, 4 exercises for triceps and 4 for biceps. So, yeah, you touched on a lot of good points that I definitely agree with. And especially like with the GH, out, you know, it's kind of out of my pocket. Like, I mean, I've never really been able to afford it yet, but like the times I have, I've done two IUs of Geno, and like I could literally feel myself like growing, you know, that day. So it's like a lot of, like you said, a lot of people think like you have to, you know, do 2 grams of test and all this crazy stuff. And like literally, man, it's small adjustments and like being consistent all across the board. That's really what does it, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the rep range, or like the rep, like my tempo during a rep. And that's something a lot of people, like when I train with people, I normally will explain it once. And if you follow my suit, I'm happy, but if you don't, I'm not going to preach it anymore. But I do think that there's a whole lot that goes into that, because I learned how to train. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this. I've talked about it before, and I always give credit where credit's due. It's a program called Max OT.
Oh, yeah.
Max-OT. It's by AST Labs.
Skip LaCour and Jeff Willett.
Yeah, that was the ones. I mean, I looked at it this way. Back then, me being a natural teenager, and I was looking up to them because, they were natural. I mean,
same here.
I mean, back then they allowed like 180 and 480 because that was over the counter. They were allowed to take that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because realistically, Jeff was one of the best natural bodybuilders you would ever see.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that anybody like competes in was the INBF.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he would kill everybody in that. He would be like the Mr. Olympia of natural bodybuilding. But nonetheless, Jeff was really good, and I'm not trying to take away anything from what he's done. And he played by the rules. That was the rules back then. They've changed now. It's gotten a little bit tighter. But I follow that program, and they basically explain, with your reps, you want to go slow negatives, and I would always control the weight down. And I wasn't worried about feeling the muscle on the way down, but on the way up, I would explode and contract, and I would always try to squeeze everything on the way up. And I did this on every movement that I could possibly do. And then when I turned probably about 20, I wanted to start trying Dante's methods with DC. So basically, he preaches the same thing: slow negative, forceful contraction. And I've always liked that, but I didn't like his low volume. So I took his principles and I basically, modified it into a higher volume program for myself. And it worked amazing for me. I didn't have any issues with it. But yeah, just the actual rep execution makes a big difference versus guys that just goes in and they sling the weight around. I mean, I can name a shitload of guys off the top of my head that do that, and they look great. But in my head, I'm just thinking, I wonder what they could look like if they would slow it down. I wonder how much more progress they could make.
Yeah.
But I also feel that because I've had that embedded into my brain since I was like 15 years old, that this is how you execute in the gym. I think if you're used to just having sloppy reps and you've been doing it for 10, 15 years, most of the guys are not going to learn. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't. I mean, I've been around people and I try to slow them down a little bit. I'll slow them down on one set. The next set, they're right back to doing the way they normally do it. I just look at it as time under tension, because getting that slow negative in, you're adding more time that the weight is on the muscle. The more pressure is going to be against it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's your goal, is to break down as many fibers as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And also, that negative, in my opinion, is going to be what builds strength. It's going to build power over time. I mean, I wasn't a power lifter. I never considered doing powerlifting. I actually hopped in a meet one time just for shits and giggles. I think at 21 years old, I bench pressed 455.
Wow.
And they all laughed at me because, powerlifters like arch the back, and, it's just their form. It's what they do. It's how they move maximum weight. I just straight up just walked in like a bodybuilder, just fell down on the bench. I had my elbows wide, my butt was flat, my back was flat, and I did 455. And everybody was telling me I should go into powerlifting. I'm like, no, I mean, I like powerlifting. I like it, but it's not something I'm ever going to do. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I contribute a lot of the power I had to that, because I think I did 505 for 5, like on a flat bench press. And that's raw, slow negative, forceful, the way I always trained. Yeah. And you don't really see many bodybuilders that's able to handle that.
No.
Yeah.
You actually had like so many good points that I don't even know where to start. But Max OT was actually my first training style as a teenager. Obviously, I was natural as a teenager, and I looked up to Skip LaCour and Jeff Willett, and I did Max OT for a long time, and I made some really crazy gains as a teenager from that, and the strength was like through the roof. But yeah, the execution, it would be slow and explode. A lot of people don't know about Max OT style training. I haven't heard anybody talk about that for years, man. For years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nobody mentions it at all, really, like ever. I think it's great, especially it's a lower volume training program, and I think it's great for rookies, and I think it's great for naturals, because one, it teaches you to lift heavy. It teaches you to, I don't know how to say, not be a bitch in the gym like some people. Mm-hmm. And lower volume is obviously going to be a little bit more approach towards a natural bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So that's why I gravitated towards that. I mean, I knew once I became enhanced, it was almost like the lower volume, I didn't feel like I worked out. It's like I'd leave the gym and feel like I left so much on the table. And that's why ultimately kind of drove me to doing higher volume.
Uh-huh. Actually, like to be honest, like I still pretty much train max OT. I just add a shit ton of more volume to it. So usually with max OT, let's say anywhere from 4 to 8 reps, right? So you do a set there, and you might just do two sets to failure per body part, maybe 3 exercises for chest. So you might do a bench press, incline bench, and then I don't know, a chest fly machine, and you do 2 sets of failure to each. Whereas me, instead of doing 3 exercises, I'll do 5 exercises, and I'll probably do 3 sets.
Yeah, that's how I am with it too.
Yeah, and to be honest, like it feels great to me. Like I don't feel like I'm doing too much, but like you said, it's like if I stop there, I just felt like that just wasn't enough for me. You know, am I right? Would I be able to go just as much from low volume? Possibly. I don't know, but I just never did it that way. And also to touch on the cycle part, my off-season cycle never changes. I never change compounds. I never change doses. My off-season is always the same. If I can eat more food or the same food, I always progress. I've never had to change that. As far as GH, GH is probably the only thing that's changed in the last 4 years. You know what I'm saying? First, I didn't use any GH. Then I started with like 2 IUs. My hands did get numb, so I kind of stopped there, and then I went up to like 4, and then now I'm probably up to 7 or 8, something like that. So yeah, you really don't have to. A lot of people like I'll get like a DM or text. They're like, "Oh, what do you think about this new off-season cycle?" I'm like, you don't have to you don't have to ask me or get fancy with it. Like, just do the same thing you did. Like, you don't have to always switch it up and add a bunch of new things to it. I think it's pretty basic. But being on that topic, I want to ask you about. Have you heard about the debate between Dave Palumbo and Milos about the insulin? One is arguing pre and post. One is saying pre is not smart and you only should do post. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like there's a place for pre and post workout insulin, or do you agree with Dave?
So I don't know their full argument. Like, I haven't kept up with the drama that goes with it. I mean, I don't think, I know Dave's a very intelligent guy, but I personally don't think that Dave wants to touch Milos when it comes to insulin, because he's been the master of that for years. Yeah. So for me, this is my thoughts when it comes to that. I personally think that if you're a brand new rookie to it, you could probably get away. Like, the most common way is it's post-workout, right? That's what you typically hear people doing. But I think, and I will only have a client do this if I feel like you're not only educated, but you're dedicated as well to following the plan. Because I need people, when it comes to using insulin, I need people to be alert and coherent. It's like, you can't. That's not a move for a dumbass to add in, because it's obviously a high risk drug. Mm-hmm. It can kill your ass if you do it wrong. I mean, for somebody to die doing it in a bodybuilding protocol, I mean, you really had to fuck up to do that. Yeah. But in order to get the maximum results out of it, I personally feel pre was better for me.
Me too.
Pre-workout, Humalog. Dave likes Humulin R, and if you read a lot of Dave stuff, I remember he would do it, because I read back when MD had those old Q&As, I read like 300 pages of his Q&As. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But he would always use Humulin R, I think, first thing in the morning, and then he would do it again around meal 3, meal 4, and it keeps it active all day pretty much in the system.
Yeah.
I'm kind of opposed to that. Like, I personally feel you're going to get fatter off that. I don't feel that you need it. Like, just from a bro science standpoint, using it pre-workout, that's when you're going to be shuttling those nutrients and stuff into the muscle while you're training. You're pushing those carbs in there, you're pushing glycogen in there. Like, I just felt like my endurance was like, and when I say endurance, I'm not just talking about minutes in the gym, like, 60 minutes, 90 minutes until my body starts to tap out. I'm talking about the endurance on a set, like where I would normally get 8 reps on something, I'm getting 9, 10, 11, or 12 reps. It's almost like I just had more power than what I would normally have. So doing it post-workout is going to ultimately help your recovery a little bit. But I think doing it pre-workout is going to be better because, in theory, I think Humalog taps out of your system, about 4 hours? It's gone.
Yeah.
So if you take it about anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour before your training, depending on how your diet's set up, depending on how everything is moving, I think having it in there pre-workout, you're going to be able to shuttle everything in while you're training, and it's still going to be active while you're post-workout. This is not going to be active 6 hours after you're done training. But I feel like at that point, you know, your anabolic window, so to say, is going to be gone anyways. So pre-workout, in my opinion, is about the only way to go with that. I mean, what does Dave do? Does he say post-workout or what?
Yeah, Dave says only post-workout. He feels like you're going to go hypo during your workout, but it's like, I mean, if you have – but he also doesn't believe in, like, intra-workout shakes. So I guess for him, it could make sense. But, I mean, we eat so much food and carbs. Like, it's not like you would do it during prep when you're low carbs, right? But Dave believes in low carbs, and he doesn't believe in intra-workout. So I guess for Dave's approach – I guess it makes sense, right?
Yeah, under that, like if you're not willing to do an intra workout and you want to do super low carbs, then yeah, you're probably not going to want to take it pre-workout. Again, it's also one of those things like if you're on low carbs, chances are you're dieting, right? And I don't really like to use insulin while I'm dieting. I got not just me, but my clients as well. I don't really like to use it during prep. I don't know why, and I think it was Dave. And if it is, I'd have to call his bluff on this one. So Dave would smoke me probably on just an overall, like a medical. I mean, he was, what, one semester away from being a doctor in the medical field? Yeah, so, I mean, Dave is very intelligent. Like, by no means am I knocking him, but I'm pretty sure he's the one that said when you're training, your body will stop digestion, like the blood will go from your stomach to your muscles. But, like, that's bullshit. Like, for example, if I eat during my workout, I promise you my body's still going to be digesting that food. Like if I'm in the middle of my workout and I'll go grab a Snickers bar or whatever the hell I grab, which wouldn't be my go-to, but you get the point, is like it's still going to digest. It's still going to process. I mean, anybody don't believe that, they can obviously go drink 100 grams of Vitargo and check your blood glucose and see if it shows a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're not taking any intra or pre-workout, and by pre-workout, I mean like pre-workout carbs, not the actual like a pre-workout drink.
Yeah.
So insulin for me would be pre-workout, but I would also have carbs pre when I take the insulin and also intra-workout while I'm training. And I would always set mine up so that like my workouts were never done in 45 minutes ever. But I would always take that intra shake and I would always make sure I have it done within the first 45 minutes, just basically to ensure that I'm not going to go hypo. That was a big thing for me. So I would always just chug it on down. And I never had a problem with it. I mean, at one point, I think my body did, because I did test the limit. I wanted to put a threshold on this to see what I was capable of. I think 8 to 10 units for most people is going to be more than enough pre-workout. I've gotten up to 15. I kept going like 11, 12, 13, 14, and I was increasing the carbs accordingly. And it only took me about 4 or 5 days to realize this was a bad fucking idea, because once I got to 15, it's like, my carbs were, I want to say I had like 80 grams with the insulin and another 80 grams intra, and I was planning on having like 120 grams post. It wasn't enough because like while I was training, I just remember I looked like I was taking a shower. It was like just sweat everywhere, and my hands just kind of starting to shake. At that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to just call it. I have to call the workout. I can't finish it because I feel like if I finish it, I mean, last thing I really want to do is an embarrassment to be tapped out in the middle of the fucking gym and have like EMTs come in on me.
No, you're right.
So I just went ahead and I was like, all right, we're going to call this workout. We're going to go ahead and drink the post-workout shake, even though I was only halfway through. And I think I'd done hamstrings that day. I didn't even start quads. I was supposed to do them both. I didn't even start it. It was like my body's just fucked up right now. So then I would go back to like 8 to 10, no problems.
You'd be good.
So, I mean, as long as people don't always have that attitude that more is better, that you have to keep doing more, as long as you don't have that attitude with it, it can be done relatively safe and effective.
Exactly.
I don't see how, like I've seen people make posts where they talk about, running 100+ units a day. And, Joe with Project AD, he always calls me like a nutrient partitioning machine, because like my blood glucose, I can eat whatever the fuck I want, anything, as much of it as I want. And I'll never really go past like 105 or 110. Wow. Like my fasted's normally around 70, and no matter how much sugars and carbs I eat, I won't go past like 110. So my body's natural insulin response is very, very good. So like I said, that's something for me. Like if I try to take too much, obviously I'm going to be in the fucking hole really fast.
Exactly. So you've been very generous with your time. I don't want to hold you up too much longer, but I did want to ask, do you think there's a huge difference between generic and farm GH? I actually had Phil Vid on the show not too long ago, and he's very, very adamant that there's a huge difference. From my experience, I've had really good generic stuff that I felt it was great, and I've tried farm stuff that wasn't that good, but I mean, it wasn't like I don't know how legit of a farm grade it was, but do you think there's a huge difference, like night and day, or so?
No, I don't think there's a huge difference night and day. And when you talk to people about this is another one of those subjects where when people have already formulated an opinion on it, you're probably not going to change that opinion on this. But just so anybody is, just for me to have some like more justification and hold a little bit more weight to what I'm going to say, is everybody knows how expensive farm grade GH is. It's not cheap, and it used to be even higher. It's almost like now I've seen guys get it cheaper now than they did back when I was competing. Like, shit, I remember 2012. I think it was 2012. That's when I first originally wanted to try it. And I would see like Humatrope, like 72 IUs going for like $450, $500 or more. It's like, I don't got money for that kind of shit. So I would use, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but Riptropins. Remember those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Riptropins was generic. You could get it anywhere from, if you had the right hookup for it, $150 a piece, $180 a piece back then for a kit. Even some people's getting it cheaper than that if you're buying it in bulk. So, that's relatively affordable. And I can tell you that it was as real as it's ever going to get. My physique reflected it. My side effects reflected it as well. Okay. And obviously I've done both. I've switched over because, everybody wants to talk about how great pharma is. So it's like, I got to find out what's the hype, right? Mm-hmm. So at one point, obviously I started making more money as my career started taking off. I didn't actually touch any farm grade GH until about 4 weeks out from the Orlando Pro. That was the first time I'd ever taken any, and it was Humatrope. And I actually had a deal going there, and I thought it was fake because what I paid for it was like, I just didn't pay very much for it. So I actually went and had it tested. I went and got a GH serum test. When I saw it was real, I was like, okay, I'm good on this. And that price didn't stick for long. Like I only got it for that price. I was like a one-time deal for me. But anyways, when I switched over, the only thing that I did see that was significantly different was the water retention. I don't hold any water when I'm taking like Humatrope. I stay really dry. Now, when I would use the generics, I would see a little bit of water like on my feet. Like say I've had a long day and I'm always on my feet, which I'm not on my feet. But if I've had a day where I'm on my feet a lot, I look down, I'm like, yeah, a little bit of fluid here. My hands would get like a little bit puffy towards the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So that was the only difference that I could really see was a little bit of fluid retention. So like if I got somebody going into a show, I'll specifically ask them what kind of GH they have. And that kind of gives me an idea of when I'm going to pull it. Like somebody that if they look like they're holding water and they are holding water from GH, I'm going to pull that a little bit further out versus if you have serostems, I think, okay, so the Orlando Pro, I ran it all the way to the day before. Took it all the way to the day before the show, did not take it out. Wow. And everybody says, oh, you have to pull GH. Well, clearly I was fucking dry at that show. I won it, and I didn't take it out. I literally ran it all the way up to the day before. I think the only reason I did that was because I had like just X amount of left in the pen. I was like, I ain't throwing this shit out. I'm going to go ahead and use this. And it didn't affect me at all. But I know if I would have had like Riptropins in there, I would have had to have taken that out.
Yeah. Like for me right now, I'm actually holding a ton of water. I think part of it has to be the GH, and my body's acting a little weird, being that I haven't competed or dieted in so long. Like, it's like my body wants to grow, which is strange for me because I'm usually get lean super fast, but like my body just wants to stay bigger, and I'm just not losing fat and water at the rate I usually use it. But I mean, it's all good. We have a ton of time.
You came down was it 5 pounds? Was it about 5 pounds last week? 4, 5?
I think it was like 4, but it's like the weight doesn't seem.
But we pulled pretty hard on that, and with the changes this past week, I think you're going to continue to lose more at a faster pace now.
Yeah, hopefully. It looks like it though. It looked like, to be honest, like I feel like I look harder, but I think my body's also growing because I had so much time off, right? So it's like I wasn't really eating a ton of food. Like I was just taking a break. So if I go from not eating a lot of food and being off everything, and then I change that up. I feel like a lot of muscle is going to try to come back on. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, you're probably going to grow throughout the whole prep. I mean, you told me you're not a big eater as it is, right? You don't like to eat.
Yeah. If I have to, I definitely will. But if you leave it up to me, off season, I kind of just like literally like I could be like 300 pounds and eating like 6 ounces of protein or like 8 ounces of carbs. You know what I'm saying? It's just not a big eater, man. Not a big eater, but
yeah, some people just don't have the appetite, and that's something that I think you're fortunate enough to be the size you are with minimal appetite.
Yeah,
I mean, not too many people reach 250 plus with no appetite.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. And yeah. So to wrap it up, I wanted to ask you, Phil Heath is coming back this year for Olympia. Do you think anybody has a chance? Do you think it's going to be close? Do you think anybody else is going to win? What are your Olympia predictions if you had to throw that out?
So that's a the Phil thing itself, I think, could be a controversial topic. But the Olympia in general, I did see where the IFBB put out a thing that they said any international athlete, they're going to help them make sure that they get into the state. So that's good. That was kind of concerning to me. I'm like, all right, you know what? If you take Rolly out, you take Bonnick out. I mean, that's 2 of your top 5 guys right there. You take Hottie out.
Yeah.
You take out the good competitors. Like, I'm not knocking anybody else, but that's 3 of your top 5 guys. Yeah. You take those out. I mean, it's like, to me, it's not an Olympia whenever only half the guys can show up. Being as they change that, and being as those guys can show up, that creates a little bit more excitement for me. Because honestly, I was hoping they just canceled the fucking thing. Like, I didn't even want to see it at that point. That being said, if everybody's going to be showing up, I know there's going to be a few athletes that's just not going to be able to qualify due to the COVID restrictions, and that sucks, but it is what it is. Now, to skip past all that and go to Phil. This is my thoughts with Phil. I don't think Phil's going to do it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, look, I mean, yeah, he's talking about it, he's posting about it. I hope he does. I really fucking hope he does. Because he's had the time off. Now, Phil's not dumb by any means. Phil knows exactly why he lost the last Olympia. He was criticized for his midsection, and I think he can easily get that under control. If Phil shows up with the midsection from like 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14 range, nobody's beating him. That's my thoughts. He's gonna like literally just walk away with this one without a challenge. I wouldn't say without a challenge. That's far from reality. But he's going to walk away as with a perfect score again. Now, if Phil shows up a little bit off, that's a different story. I mean, if his midsection is not 100%, I think he is going to be susceptible to losing. I mean, you have a lot of you got Hottie, who I feel personally should have been second last year. I think that was an apples and oranges between Brandon and Hottie. I'm a big Bonnick fan, but I didn't think Bonnick deserved second last year. I would have probably dropped him down to third. But, you have Hottie, and then you got Flex Lewis hopping in this year, and Brandon's, prepping this year. Between those 3, I mean, if Phil's off, he's going to have his hands full. But if he's on, I don't think anybody's going to touch him.
Yeah, Phil is definitely next level.
It's just one of those things, like I said, it's going to depend on how he shows up on that day. I mean, I can't really judge my thoughts on Phil. Will probably have some tank top pictures posted and stuff, but because his arms are so fucking freaky, you can't really look at his tank top pictures and say, yeah, this is your next Mr. Olympia again. But when he shows up with his shirt off and, the day of the show, when he walks out, he's either going to be a winner or he's going to be 4th or 5th. One or the other. Yeah.
One thing is, do you believe the hernia thing, man? Because the year before, he had the hernia. He said it was hernia. He got it fixed, and then it happens again with the stomach. And then he says, "Well, he got it fixed, but it wasn't fixed right." And he got it. Do you believe it's a hernia, or do you just think, just like everybody else, like Ronnie and Dorian, he just got to a point where his waist just got bigger?
I do think if you look at him over time, his hips and stuff does look like it's gotten a little bit bigger. Now, as far as like what's wrong with his stomach, I don't know. But I mean, if you look at his belly button, you can clearly see he does I don't know if he does now, but he did have an umbilical hernia. I mean, you can see those when the belly button starts to protrude out. That's what that is, an umbilical hernia. Now, I don't know if he's got other hernias behind that or not. generally speaking, like when you have hernias, you're able to see them, like knot or something sticking out. Again, that's why the umbilical hernia is right there. Now, I don't know how that affects the midsection because I've never had a hernia, so I don't know. I mean, if he got it fixed and it didn't hold, like for example, if he got it fixed, and I don't know, I'd probably be looking at wanting to kick a doctor's ass or something because that could have potentially costed him the Olympia.
Yeah,
you know, could have cost him his legacy because someone did a poor job on a surgery.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. So something crazy, right? When I was working with Johnny Regan, right? At one off season, he had me eating like 14 ounces of chicken with like 14 ounces of rice. So let's say that. And then when you're young, you're like, I don't care. Like this is how you be a freak. And I would sit there for like 2 hours to eat these meals. And the crazy thing ever, I ended up getting, I don't know if you could call it a hernia. I swear, my belly button started popping out. It was like a 2-week period. My belly button popped out. I went from like an innie to outie. I'm like, do I have a hernia? Like, what's going on? He was like, oh, when you eat a lot of food, sometimes that happens. I'm like, wow. And lo and behold, I stopped following the diet because I just couldn't do it. And my belly button kind of went back in. I'm like, what just happened here? Like, did I like get a hernia from eating too much food? Like literally my belly button came out, and then it kind of just.
Well, let me ask you this: was you getting leaner in that process?
I definitely wasn't getting fatter. I wasn't getting fatter.
Okay, so for myself, if I'm off season and I have a little bit of fat around my stomach, I have an innie. But when I'm actually peeled and I'm dry, I don't have anything in my stomach at all. When I wake up, it's just flat. But when I'm peeled and I'm in shape and I eat too much and I bloat myself, then the belly button will actually stick out a little bit. I mean, when I say stick out, I mean, we're talking maybe like 1/8 of an inch, but it'll like Phil's was more than that. Because when Phil would actually like turn to the side, you could see like he had a full blown umbilical hernia. Yeah. So his was much different than what I'm referring to. Like he obviously did have to get surgery to repair that.
Yeah. That's wild, though. It's a wild thing.
Anyway. I don't know what causes that. I mean, I don't know if that's due to strain of lifting. I mean, a lot of people's going to sit here and argue that, oh, it's the drugs. Well, okay, motherfuckers. Anybody that's want to say that. What about the people who don't bodybuild and they don't do shit and they get umbilical hernias? Because umbilical hernias, it's very common. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like it's a rare thing. Like if you talk to a general surgeon, like hernias are common than people who don't lift weights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Henry, do you have any more questions for Mr. Compton?
No, man, I don't. He touched pretty much all the stuff I wanted to know about. He touched pretty extensively on. So I'm good. I'm good on my end.
He actually answered some of the questions that I had that I didn't even ask. He already answered it.
Yeah. Same here. Some stuff I was going to ask if he didn't talk about it, but yeah, he talked about it. So.
Yeah, when I get babbling on about shit, man, I talk a lot. It's kind of funny for me to say that I used to be like an introvert and not know how to communicate with people. And now it's like, I feel like if I don't like sometimes reel myself back in, I will like dominate a conversation because I'll just keep fucking talking. It's like I overstep my boundaries and I overstep my place. And I just keep on going. And not to mention I have ADHD really bad. So like I can bounce from one topic to another and go back and forth without realizing I'm doing it.
I just think it's, man, you're retired now. I think Jay Cutler said the same thing. Like he wasn't very talkative during his career, and now that he's like done, and he's retired. Like he just talks all the time now. So,
well, Jay was like, when I watch his interviews and stuff, he was kind of like a robot when he was competing. It was very. It was weird. You just seen like a straight face, no smiles, no emotions, nothing. There was no jokes, no humor. It was just straight business talk. And then now. Retired, you get to actually see the personality side of him, like the cool version of Jay. That was probably he kept, locked up inside for all those years.
Yeah. Just being tunnel vision, you kind of just go into the zone.
I also think a lot of guys are a little bit. Now, I don't understand why it would affect your personality, but like a lot of guys are a little bit. They just want to seem professional all the time on the camera, and that's not reality that we live in. People cuss, people say goofy shit. We all laugh, we all have fun. But like Jay was one of those guys. Like when I would watch his DVDs and stuff, it was all serious business. There was no humor to it. I mean, now Ronnie, on the other hand, Ronnie had some good humor in some of his stuff. Yeah. But Jay was not like that when he was younger. I mean, now he's I watch some of the JTV stuff, and I don't really ever see him around, though. I haven't seen Jay in, at least 2 years. So even when you see him in person, though, he's a different – because I met him when I was a teenager. He guest posed at a show that I did, and he was very much like straight business, no smiles really. Even when it was a smile, it was like the fake smile for the fans in the pictures. But now you can see he's happy. Like, he looks much happier now that he's not competing.
He does.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
I think you don't notice that till you stop it. 'Cause let's say this past year, I pretty much wasn't a bodybuilder. I just was a normal person, and it's kind of awkward. It's kind of weird because you're so used to the structure. When you break it, it's kind of hard. You hesitate. Oh, I got to eat this oatmeal. Well, no, I don't have to eat this oatmeal. And it's kind of a weird in between. But when you get used to it, you kind of like it, man. Part of you kind of likes it. But we're always gonna have structure for sure as far as diet and stuff. But it's kind of fun to let loose a little bit, you know. But if anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody
I
want
feel
to?
like I've been doing that for about 4 years now. So,
I mean, same with you. I feel like you definitely seem happy. You definitely seem happy.
dude, I can't complain. I mean, you know, we all have setbacks and bullshit in life. I mean, but aside from that, I mean, I feel like my life is great right now. I really can't complain.
Oh, I got one last question.
Oh, okay.
You probably have it, but do you ever miss competing?
I have my moments, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I personally feel like anybody that's done it, whether you're at a low amateur level or at a high professional level, no matter which end of the spectrum or whether you're right in the middle, I feel like once you've done it, you're always going to have a passion to do it. Mm-hmm. You may not think about it every day like you did when you were like actively competing, but there's going to be days like, and there's still days like I wake up and I look in the mirror and I'm like, shit, you know, I'm not pushing any gas at all. It's like,
right.
Maybe I could do it again, you know, like maybe I want to do it. And then the thought will come and go, you know, it's there. I mean, I do miss it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think about, it's kind of fucked up because when I was competing, I used to give two shits less about the posing routine. I'm not going to lie. I was like, my entertainment value was pretty terrible because I never put much effort into that at all. Like I put a lot of effort into my mandatories because that's what you're being judged on. That's what wins and loses a show. Not the posing routine at nighttime, but it's like every now and then over the last 4 years, I'm just like thinking of stuff in my head, like that'd be a really cool song to pose to. Like I could put something good together for that. And I wish I would have been doing that shit the whole time. Like I wish I had like more of a creative mind back then, but I feel like my mind is really good right now. I feel like I could create a hell of a posing routine. So it's like, yeah, there's times I miss it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Okay. Because I mean, I used to play college ball and like I got to a point where I just said, screw it. And I don't miss it at all. I don't even watch football anymore. So I always wonder, like, when it came to bodybuilding, when my time came to an end, will it be the same way? Do I just, like, screw it? Or
I don't think it will, man, because you have certain people. Like, you look at Kevin Mavroni. He's been in and out of the scene over the years between acting and singing. And, you know, here he is. He's back. I mean, it's something that I feel like if it's in your blood, you're always going to come back to it. You look at the guys like Dorian, you know, he had his own supplement line. I think he's coaching people now. You know, Ronnie's still actively involved. Jay's involved. Every now and then you'll hear about someone like, I don't know about Gustavo Bedell. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like I said, you remember Tom Prince, right? Nobody's heard anything about Tom Prince since like 2001, but the dude still goes to Gold's Gym like once or twice a week. One of my clients that did North Americans, Matt, he said he still sees Tom, talks to Tom all the time, so he's still very active in it. You may not see him online, like doing anything on social media, but he's still there. Like his heart is still in it, and he still enjoys it. So, like, I kind of feel like with bodybuilding, I don't know, man. I think it's always going to be there. Once you've had it, you're always going to have a passion for it. Every now and then you'll see a bodybuilder who, when they quit, they just completely let themselves go and they look like shit, but not too often. I mean, you see guys downsize. Every now and then you'll see a guy gain a little bit of body fat, but they're still muscular and they still do what they do. Like I very rarely ever see someone just completely and utterly walk away and then just have no interest to it whatsoever. I mean, even the guy that's scorned who had something happen to them, like from a political standpoint, they got fucked over or something, they're still in it. You know, they didn't just turn their back on it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say turn your back on it like, you know, you walked away. It's just, like you said, lack of interest. Like you don't watch any football anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, I never got into sports. So, like, I never really watched any sports at all. I can't really comment on that. But it's like, again, bodybuilding's been here since I was 14 years old. And here I am now, 32, and I'm still still watch shows. I watch play-by-plays. I watch previews. I always look at the scorecards when they come out. You know, look at all the NPC winners and whatnot. Shit, I still go through like the top 5 of guys that I don't even fucking know. Probably guys I'm never going to meet either. But I still enjoy looking at it.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all have like a legit love for bodybuilding. Anybody want to shout out, or if you want to shout out any sponsors or anybody who?
No, I mean, I think I just want to shout myself out on this, my own business. You know, if anybody, I said I have plenty of slots open for coaching. Anybody that's interested, you know, hit me up. Reach out on Instagram. I'm usually pretty active there. An email. My email's listed on my Instagram. However you guys want to reach out to me. That's pretty much all I'm going to shout out for right now. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot else. I mean, I could name a lot of people who's been supportive to me over the years, but we'd be here another 20 or 30 minutes just to shout all those out. You know, so everybody out there that, you know, supports me, I love you guys. Thank you all for that.
I can honestly say Justin is hands down the best coach I've worked with, and I don't see myself working with another coach, you know, in the future. And also to be this generous with your time, you know, of somebody of your caliber, you know, top 3 at Arnold's, top 4, top 3, or top 3 or top 4.
I was 3rd one year and then 4th for following, and I won the Arnold Hong Kong.
Oh, there we go. Okay, well, I didn't even work. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, so to be this generous with your time, to be upfront with everybody, like I said, when I was younger, you told me that, you know, you didn't take my money. You just said, you know, I can't allocate that time right now. So I think Henry would agree with me if I said that we have none but respect for you. Not only your physique, much more than your physique, obviously, your personality, who you are as a person, you know, and who you are as a coach, and we have none but respect for you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for being on the show, Justin. That's another episode of Real Muscle Podcast. We see you guys.
Yeah. We'll talk soon here.
Peace.